Alrighty, we'll give everyone another minute to hop in. We are streaming live on YouTube. It will be saved there later, but as a quick reminder, you will receive a copy of the recording of today. And you should be able to see my slides. I'm not going to do video today because it's the day after holiday and I've got kiddos home for the summer and all that. And they're using up all of the internet. Haha, I feel like one of those commercials. So we will go ahead and let me get the recording started. And since we are at the top of the hour, we'll go ahead and dive in. 1 second here. All right, awesome. So thank you all for being here today. We greatly appreciate your time, especially impressive after a holiday weekend, because I know some of us may be dragging a little bit. Hope you had a nice weekend. We're here today to talk about leveraging LinkedIn for professional success. And the advice that we're going to give you today will go kind of across the board. At some point, we're going to be talking a little bit more to job seekers. At other points, we'll be talking to people who are using LinkedIn for branding purposes or for sales purposes. The advice we're going to give you today will go across the board, but as I'm talking about certain things for different situations, I'll mention that as we go. So just know that regardless of the situation that you are in, wanting to leverage LinkedIn more effectively, this will help you today for sure. I'm Hallie Crawford, a certified career coach, speaker, and author. My company is based in Atlanta, Georgia. I've been coaching and training since 2002. I have an undergrad degree from Vanderbilt University and a master's degree from the University of Illinois. So I've been coaching for a long time. We have fantastic coaches on our team that help clients figure out their career direction, make it happen, be more effective with their job search and help them with professional success in the long run too. And we're going to give you a lot of different tips and advice today. So remember, you'll get the copy of the recording so you can download that later and listen in. And also what I would recommend is pick and choose what makes the most sense for you based on where you are in terms of leveraging LinkedIn for your professional goals at the moment. Pick 1 or 2 things, and then you can come back to the recording later on and identify what you want to do next. And I say that a little bit too as we move to this next slide, because as I'm sure you already know, LinkedIn has a lot of features and they are changing things all the time. It's hard even for us to kind of stay on track with what they're doing and keep up with things. So we don't want you to feel overwhelmed about it. Just kind of take it step by step. Work on your profile first, and then think about, okay, the next things that you want to be doing. If you take a look at this next slide, obviously LinkedIn is so important for so many different reasons. And the one thing that we want to reference at the bottom right here that I find is kind of the most important, that our clients typically don't do quite as good of a job of as we would like, which is why we help them, is this idea of branding themselves on LinkedIn. It's not just about selling yourself and saying, hey, I'm great at this, this, and this. But with LinkedIn, just like with your resume, and honestly, during an interview, whether you're interviewing for a new job, speaking with a prospective client or customer, you want to paint a picture of what you are like as a professional and how you can help them in whatever way, shape, or form it is. So this branding idea is just so important that you're kind of telling that story of what you bring to the table, not just saying, hey, look, I'm good at all of these cool things. And we'll talk about that a little bit more today. Let's take a look at the next slide. There's several different reasons why we want people to consider leveraging LinkedIn. And they're listed on this slide here. It's actually really important because I think, again, most people think, okay, I'm going to put it up there and then woohoo, it's going to do what it needs to do for me. But with LinkedIn, not just sell yourself, you need to brand yourself effectively. As part of it too, you want to make sure that you're positioning yourself as an expert, whether it's for job search purposes or other purposes. It's a great place where you can actually learn from other people, exchange ideas, and stay in the know with industry trends. So those are good reasons to be more active on LinkedIn as well. It can help you strengthen and expand your network, obviously, and it can help you, if you're not a job seeker right now, increase your sales to your customers, enhance your client relationships. We worked with an organization in Texas a few years ago, and they told us, literally, they were in sales, but they told us that before someone, like a person that they were going to call upon to talk to them about their product and services, that person would always look at their LinkedIn profile first before actually even setting up a call with them. So LinkedIn goes across the board these days. And we have seen, and I'll move to the next slide so you can see where we're going today. We saw post-COVID like a 50 to 60% uptick in people connecting with us, or contacting us, I should say, about their LinkedIn profile, not for job search purposes, but for branding purposes, and just so they look like they're up to date. So here's our agenda. If you take a look at this next slide, we're going to talk first about your profile, enhancements that you want to make there, making and establishing connections, and then sharing valuable information. We don't do Q&A in these workshops because they are short and sweet in a good way, and we focus on giving you the content. You can ask for a copy of our slides in addition to already getting the recording. You would just email us at admin@createyourcareerpath.com. And I will put that in the chat box so that you have it in case you want to go ahead and do that, or you want to copy and paste it for any other reason. It's there in the chat for you. All right, let's dive in. So I would recommend going through the steps that we're talking about today in the order that they're presented, because the first thing that you need to do is get your profile up to date. Does it have to be 100% perfect and 100% complete? No. So if you look at the bottom right here for just a second, and then we'll go through the rest of the items on the slide, you probably have noticed that LinkedIn has a lot of different boxes on there for presentations, for articles, for certifications, all these different things. Some of them may not be relevant for your situation. So when we say 100% complete profile, we mean in a way that makes sense for your situation. If you don't have published articles, that's okay. You don't have to have something in every single section on LinkedIn. It's there for you to use if you do. So you want to get as close as possible to 100%, but just don't put that pressure on yourself of, oh, what if these other sections are blank? That's okay. If they're not relevant for your situation, no problem. Number one, with your profile, we want you to focus on obviously the content, but also your picture, your banner, branding yourself using your banner and other things, and then SEO, which is search engine optimization. You want to make sure you have the right keywords in your profile in certain sections on LinkedIn. We want you to make new connections and deal with expanding your network to that 500 plus magic number that LinkedIn really likes. And then finally, we'll talk about sharing information. Once you get all of these other things in place, you can start posting articles that are appealing to you, videos, et cetera, participating in groups. So let's talk first about your profile. So I think we all know this, so I'll be short and sweet about this one. But it is important to have a headshot, number one, and number two, that it looks professional, warm, contemporary, all that good stuff. We also want you to have a branded image for your banner behind your headshot. Now, I'll show you what this means, and I'll come back to this slide in just a second. So the branded banner is the banner right here behind your headshot. And we ideally want you to have an image with like not just your job title per se. It can be your job title, but your job title is here already. So instead, it's better to have like keywords in here and like a really good kind of summary statement of what you bring to the table and what you're known for. Okay, so this is a branding opportunity in your banner. Now with your images, you could have your company logo if that makes sense for you and your situation. It could be a nature scene, city skyline, could be something else relevant to your industry, or it could be an interest that you have that could be a talking point when you're networking with someone or going on an interview, et cetera, et cetera. Lots of different options there. So the example we've got on the slide here, this woman is in veterinary pharmaceutical sales. So having a dog's nose on there makes perfect sense. They have their dogs on all of their Zoom calls. This is branding her as a leader within this industry. And that's what we want you to focus on. More and more people have this. So if you don't have it, it's actually the reverse now, where you're going to start to stand out a little bit more if you don't, kind of in a negative way, if you will. Now with your profile, 3 things on this next slide here. Let's start with the left. We want you to make sure that your contact information is on there and visible. Yes, people can contact you through LinkedIn, sure. But what if you're not checking your LinkedIn messages as often, or it's something like urgent, or they just would prefer to call you or email you? You want to make it easy on them. So make sure that all of that is there completed and visible. We do like for people to customize their URL just because they can make it a little bit shorter and it's less gobbledygook. And when you put it on your resume, then it just looks a little bit less messy, if you will. The same thing we like for people to do to leverage LinkedIn for all of these purposes that we've been talking about, for branding yourself with your customers, et cetera. It's a nice idea to add a live link to your email signature line so that people can find you really easily on LinkedIn and know that they found the right person. We recommend a live link in your email and text only to your resume and cover letter header. Okay, so just be careful about that because those can trip up the scanners. With your About section, that's that spot where you've got a nice little summary about who you are. We would recommend including all of these pieces of our ideal career model. This is the model that we use with all of our clients. I developed it when I first started my coaching practice about 25 years ago, and it helps people clarify their career goals, get better with their job search, finalize their career direction, all this other good stuff. And the point here for this particular slide is for you to not just include on your LinkedIn profile and in your About section, okay, this is my education and my experience and what my strengths are, but we also want you to include some of your soft skills about your personality type and why that is helpful to your clients or customers or a prospective employer. Talk about why you enjoy what you do. People want to hire people or work with people that enjoy their job. And it's also fair game to talk for a second about what some of your values are. You know, what are your values that relate to the type of culture that you want to work in or develop as a leader, et cetera, et cetera. So don't just have like, okay, I'm good at these 5 things. Again, the branding piece is painting a picture of who you are as a professional so that almost, and I hesitate to say it exactly this way, but not that just they're reading the facts, but they can almost kind of feel what it's like or what it might be like to work with you because you're giving this kind of extra additional information. With your About section, we want you to have a branding statement in there, and it needs to be composed of these 3 pieces. Who do you serve or provide value to? What type of industry you're in, et cetera, who are your typical clients? What unique value do you provide to them? Why? The who, what, and the why. The last one is how do you deliver what the services or products or the results that you provide, and how do you do that? Is it because you're very hands-on? Is it because you're great at identifying customers' problems right away, et cetera? So it's a good idea in your About section to have a branding statement as part of it so that, again, you're painting that picture, not just stating a bunch of facts. Now, with your About section, if you look at this next slide, we like for people to use first person in their About section at least a little bit. It can be throughout the whole thing, or it can just be for part of it. So bottom line here, if you take a look at the slide on the left, your writing choice should mirror your field. So for example, if you're in a service or profession like we are, where we're human services, we tend to be a little bit more casual, informal, et cetera, we would write our About section all in first person because we're speaking right to the person directly. If you're in a more formal or traditional profession that you need to write a little bit more formally, it's okay to have third person in there at the very beginning, but we always want people to use at least a little bit of that first person narrative so that you're talking to the reader. People don't connect with a LinkedIn profile or a piece of paper, they connect with a person. And so if you speak to them like that, this is going to help your chances of them understanding, again, what you bring to the table, but painting that picture of who you are and the value you provide. Now, with your experience section, let's talk about this one next. So with your experience section, this is going to be similar in a lot of ways to your resume, right? You have a summary, you've got some bullet points that are your, main accomplishments. But a couple of the things that you can do to leverage LinkedIn a little bit more to stand out is you can add testimonials about your work. These could be from recommendations that you have at the bottom of your profile and picking up an excerpt from that, or it could be something that someone told you verbally or otherwise. But we like for people to put these in their experience section so they don't get lost at the bottom and buried. And it's a great third person testament to the work that you do. The second thing you can include in your experience, if you have it, is artifacts. Artifacts is kind of a formal word, but that's what they talk about or how they describe it. This could be an article that you published, a blog entry that you wrote for your industry journal or blog, a graphic, a chart, analysis, PowerPoint presentation, an example of your work, bottom line. When you post something like this, obviously it has to be okay for public consumption. You need to remove anything that your client or customer might get mad about, details, make it confidential, whatever is appropriate to do so. So obviously be careful about that. But as much as possible, if you can not just tell them about the work you do, but show them about the work that you've done, that's that much better to help you stand out from the crowd. We're always happy to do a free consult with people if you're interested in learning more about our coaching services. If you feel like you need more help with this or anything else career-wise, happy to talk with you. We always give a discount for people who attend our webinar, so please mention that when you set up the consult. It's the same email address as it is for the slides, admin@createyourcareerpath. Happy to talk with you further to see if it's the right fit for you. Finally, with your profile, and then we'll start to move to step number 2, is with your profile itself, and we'll go through this left-hand side here because it's important. It's really important to have keywords in your LinkedIn profile that employers and or recruiters would look for to find someone like you. Now, what I'm not saying here is you can just magically update your profile and all of these people are going to contact you about jobs every single day, okay? The goal is that some people will, yes, and we have had clients that happens for, and that's what we're going for because employers and recruiters use LinkedIn a lot to try to find candidates. It's a picking and choosing people versus posting a job description and wading through 500 plus applications, okay? So these keywords are important, but know that it doesn't mean that things are just gonna fall in your lap. You still have to do the work, but do this as part of your profile. You need to make sure that these keywords are in your header, in your about section, and you need to make sure your skills section is robust. And we work with our clients on which skills we want them to have based on the types of jobs that they're applying to. We do suggest you get those recommendations. That's usually one of the last things people think about. And a lot of times our clients, when they first come to us, they don't have them. So it's okay if you don't, but start to try to set a goal for yourself of, I want to get 3 recommendations in the next month so that again, people will read those. They are good and worthwhile. And it's content that you can use for different purposes. If you're trying to better brand yourself for your industry and your audience and your customers, those are things that you can use to send over to them. And then finally, if you're in job search mode, you want to make sure that you've got those settings that you are open to work so that you're indicating to employers and recruiters that you are open to getting contacted for prospective interviews. I would recommend that everybody on the call, no matter what your situation is, to go through your settings carefully to make sure they are in the place that you want them to be. Because usually people haven't looked at them in a while and things have changed, okay? All right, let's take a look at step number 2, and this is making good connections. And I say making good connections, but let me caveat that for just a second. So at the beginning of LinkedIn, a long time ago, they obviously were like, don't contact people that you don't know and vice versa. Now, these days, LinkedIn smiles upon, so to speak. You get more access to more information and resources through LinkedIn if you have 500 plus connections. So it is okay to go through your phone and connect with people, even if you haven't talked to them in a long time. It is okay to connect with people from your alumni association, Georgia State and otherwise. Join your LinkedIn Alumni Association group as well, because those are warm leads that you can leverage for connections for different purposes and reasons. Coworkers, friends, family, you can start to connect with industry leaders. And because we are moving towards that goal of 500 plus connections, if people do reach out to you and you don't know them, but they look reputable, it's okay to accept that connection request. That's on the bottom right hand of this slide here. So again, if you look at this next slide, influencers, university alumni, etc., The other thing that you can do is join a couple of industry specific groups. Now, what we have found with our clients is they'll say, well, I'm in these groups, but some of them don't do anything and they're not as active as they expected or would like them to be. That sometimes happens. That's normal. I feel like LinkedIn groups are just starting to get going in some cases. It'll take a little bit of time. But what I would suggest is get into that group anyway and look and identify if there's anyone in there that you'd like to connect with directly, because it's already funneling or winnowing people down for connections within your industry. So it's narrowing down the pool, if you will. And if you notice that there's a certain person or a few people who seem like they participate in the group a little bit more or have, those people are more likely to be open to connecting and maybe even giving you a few minutes of their time in an informational interview, etc., maybe some advice, whatever. It's a chance or a place that you can actually make some connections. So that's part of why we recommend those. One last thought on LinkedIn groups, and I think there may be one other slide on this. I'll piggyback on it if needed. But we've actually had a recruiter tell us that she would go to her LinkedIn industry specific groups to find candidates first because they were already narrowed down, if you will, by industry. So just a little extra nugget with LinkedIn. So in terms of making connections, if you ever want to contact a second or third connection, one of the things we would always recommend is ask that connection in between the two of you to make the introduction and include both of you on that, because then you will have their contact information and they will be held a little bit more accountable, so to speak, for getting back with you. Okay. So don't just go to second or third connection, Joe, Susie, Joanne, whatever. Ask for an introduction to that person first, because it's more likely to be that much more valuable to you if you do that. And then finally, on the right-hand side, I think most people know this already. Don't just send the default LinkedIn message. Let them know why you want to connect. And it can be as simple as something like this on this next slide here. When you're writing a connection request, at least take a moment to send something in there. I read your article about this. I enjoyed meeting you at this event, etc. Just make sure you're being thoughtful about things, because every once in a while, someone may not want to connect with you because you haven't done that. And you just want to be careful about those things. So some of these other little tricks and nuggets, because there's a lot of them with LinkedIn, are in our LinkedIn guide that helps you get in front of hiring managers, how to find people that are hiring, but they may not have posted on their job board, etc. You can feel free to email us about this. It's the same email address. It's $20. Happy to send it over to you. It's just a PDF, but has a lot of good, juicy information. Let's take a look at making connections and now keeping up with your network. So after you've got your profile more up to date and you're working on expanding your network, you need to make sure that you're checking your messages regularly so that you get back to people, especially if it's time sensitive. In addition to creating those new connections and asking for recommendations, it looks good if you give other people recommendations as well. It doesn't have to be 20, but 2 or 3 just want to look like you give back to. And it is a nice idea to do 2 other things, taking a look at this slide. Number 1, put like something in your activity feed, whether it's an article you liked, an inspiring image. Keep it professional and have something to say about it. Don't just slap things up there, but put that on there in your activity feed like once a month. If you're not in job search mode and you don't feel like you have to be incredibly active on LinkedIn, it might be once a month. But if you're trying to really build this up and build up your brand, start to post something once a week and schedule it on your calendar. Make networking a part of your weekly schedule. What we have found with our more senior level clients that we work with, like president, C-suite, whatever, they just kind of see LinkedIn as something that they need to be looking at least once every week or every other week. Just seeing what's going on with their colleagues, posting something, whatever. It's not even scheduled. It's just part of what they know they need to do for their professional development and to stay on top of things within their industry. So we talked about LinkedIn groups already, so I'm not going to harp on this one too much. But like I said earlier, note people who are most active, connect with them. And this could be a good way to make new connections specifically within your industry. Now, with connections, a last thought on this, and then we'll go to our third step and start to close out at the half hour mark. We actually like for our clients to leverage pretty regularly the who has viewed my profile feature. Because what if someone reaches out to you what if someone views your profile that you've been wanting to connect with for a long time, or as it is at an organization that you would like to talk to for a prospective interview to transition and like see about what it's like to work there? What if someone looks at you who is a prospective customer? So don't just let that sit idle, if you will. Use this feature to make new connections. For job seekers, in some cases, you might be able to identify who a hiring manager is if they looked at your profile. And for others, it may be as simple as, oh, I want to connect with this person because I may need their help later on. So definitely take a look at that as part of your LinkedIn networking. So it's reviewing your feed, it's posting something, it's checking your messages, and also checking your who has viewed my profile feature. And then finally, when we talk more about sharing information with your network, we definitely do want you to be careful with this, because as you get into the groove with it, you may want to start posting all the time. Now, the reason why I bring this up is LinkedIn is not Facebook. I think it's, for some of our clients, they tell us it's starting to feel that way. Keep it strictly professional. Don't blow up the feed and post things all the time, because that's going to be like noise that you'll start to get drowned out. Share things only that are truly interesting to you, and write a few sentences about why you are sharing that article or post. In your featured section is where you could put some of these artifacts like we talked about, a PowerPoint presentation, your career one sheet that outlines your leadership style, your graphic design portfolio. So in your activity feed, that's rotating, just like it might be on Facebook. And that's where you can, when you post there, you're doing that more often so that you're staying in front of the people that you are connected with in your network. With things that you want to be static, you can put that in your featured section at the top. And here are just some examples of some artifacts. I know sometimes people feel like, oh, I don't have any of these, but if you actually think about it and kind of think outside the box, there probably is something that you could post here, an explanation of how you handled a specific project, or even just a quick PowerPoint presentation that you create that explains the work you did on a specific project to support, someone that you were helping with in your organization, like start up their business in a certain area or whatever it is. Okay. We think that those can be really, really valuable to help get you an interview, getting you in front of a client or customer. It could be even your sales pitch that you could put on there as well. And finally, before we start to head out for today, I would love it if you would write down one action step that you would take for this next week. I know we're post-holiday, so everyone may feel a little bit groggy with it, but write something down based on where you are in your journey with LinkedIn. Creating a banner may be on your list. It could be search engine optimizing your profile, whatever makes the most sense. What I want you to know, though, is that I realize that updating everything and starting to get into the groove with this, I know that it can feel a little bit overwhelming. So give yourself some time on this. Like, you may want to say, okay, I'm going to get everything up to speed in the next 2 or 3 weeks or the next month, again, depending on your sense of urgency with this and what your need is. But know that this will become part of one of the things that you do professionally. It's takes 90 days to develop a new habit. You need to give yourself a little bit of time with this. And then also, please see your LinkedIn profile as an organic kind of living, breathing document. It's not just one and done. You may talk to someone about your job search and they give you oh, well, my company is always looking for this one particular keyword. And then you realize that, ooh, that may be something I need to put in your LinkedIn profile or my LinkedIn profile. So be open to changing it and adjusting it based on what you learn along the way. It's not just a static platform and really is not supposed to be. A quick final thought before we go to is absolutely make sure that you've got the LinkedIn app on your phone. And if you really need to stay on top of your LinkedIn messages regularly for whatever purposes that you're using LinkedIn for now, make sure that you've got not just the app downloaded, but those notifications turned on so that you see people's messages right away and are ready to go. Thank you so much for being here with us today, everybody. We greatly appreciate your time and hope this was a good starting point for you with LinkedIn. Please feel free to reach out to us anytime about our services, our guide, and the slides as well. Quick reminder, you will receive a copy of the recording automatically. It should be pretty immediate after the session today. So just keep an eye